skies darkened. There are thousands of mechanical eyes hovering silently over our cities. They don't just watch, they wait. Swarms of drones cross the skies as if obeying a single invisible order. And this morning, in deep vigil, my spirit was shaken. The Lord has spoken. The revelation was clear. Time is running out. My children, what you're about to hear will shake you to the core. This is not theory. It is prophecy. Drones are not just technological tools. They are part of a prophetic plan carefully devised over centuries. What looks like modernity, it is only the veneer of deception. And when the Spirit led me to Revelation 9, I understood. The locusts, with iron breastplates, were not insects. They were technological visions described in the language of an ancient prophet. They are mapping the faithful, marking the chosen ones, silently, digitally, spiritually. And the worst? Many still think that this is just surveillance. It is not. It is preparation for total control. The brand is on its way, and drones are the heralds of this new era. The Holy Spirit has revealed shocking truths to me that confirm what other prophets have echoed. There is a line being drawn between those who discern the signs and those who sleep under surveillance. You can ignore, but he cannot say that he was not warned. Just as God warned Noah before the rain, he is warning his own now. Not with thunder, but with technology. Not with trumpets, but with algorithms. And if you're watching it right now, it is because the Spirit is calling you to awaken. Let me share what God has revealed, but be warned, this message is not for the faint of heart. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. And also tell us in the comments below where you watch us and if you have any prayer requests. Heaven has spoken, but few hear. While many look up waiting for angels with wings, they forget that the supernatural can also manifest itself through what seems ordinary. Drones aren't just luxury toys or military tools. They're part of a big prophecy in motion. Every buzz in the sky is like a reminder that something much bigger is happening behind the curtains of technology. And those who are not attentive get lost in the spectacle of deception. Those artificial eyes over our heads are more than surveillance. They carry a hidden mission, a purpose shaped in millennial revelations. John saw things that we now call technology, but that he described as symbols: wings, iron, locusts. Is it crazy? Only until you realize that we have already lived in the chapter where the signs become visible. Vigilance has become a part of the routine, but there's something spiritual being observed as well. Imagine this: an entire city monitored 24 hours a day by drones that no one sees, but everyone feels. People change their behavior without knowing. Why? This is not just control. It is manipulation of perception. Something prophesied. The spirit of deception does not come by announcing. It settles silently. And while you think you're free, you've already been tagged. Not with a chip, yet, but with distraction. And you see, when I talk about distraction, I'm not just talking about social networks or fake news. I'm talking about the time that is wasted ignoring the spirit behind technology. Have you ever stopped to think that even your prayers can be interrupted by the noise of a drone? Or that your spiritual privacy is being surrounded by electronic eyes? There are people who feel restless without knowing why. It is not paranoia, it is prophetic sensitivity. Now you shouldn't panic. It's for you to wake up. Just like a shepherd who hears the wolves before he sees them, it is time to discern what is going on in the heights. The presence of these modern locusts is not random. They are waiting for orders. They are in position. They are part of a scenario that few want to accept, but that the apocalypse has already drawn in detail. Spiritual protection begins with understanding. You can't pray against what you don't recognize. Therefore, whoever has ears to hear, listen. The heavens are not silent. There is a movement going on that mixes technology, prophecy, and surveillance. If you have understood this far, you have already started to see it with different eyes. But what happens when God begins to speak directly in the night watches? Are we ready to listen? Or are we going to continue to think that all this is just a coincidence? It is in the silence of dawn that the sky speaks louder. Those who seek the Spirit in prayer in the night vigils know that there are moments when the eyes of the soul are opened, and what seemed distant becomes clear. Joel 2:28 already warned us, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. Your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions." This is happening now. While some sleep soundly, others have received revelations that have exposed the digital deception. Drones appear in these visions like giant insects, surrounding cities, hovering over churches, marking the chosen ones. This is not fiction, it is living prophecy. Ezekiel saw wheels within wheels, Ezek 1:16. Today we see propellers spinning within mechanisms that also carry a spiritual purpose. Those who pray at dawn have noticed a weight in the environment, a subtle alert that something is trying to infiltrate. The enemy works in the darkness, but God always reveals his strategy to those who watch. Those who have a prayer life feel when the spiritual environment changes. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night for no apparent reason? Ever feel an invisible pressure hovering? Matthew 26:41 reminds us, "Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation." This is exactly what many are neglecting. Technology does not sleep. Drones don't rest. The surveillance system that covers the skies is waiting for an order, and when it comes, only those who are discerning will understand what is happening. I'll give you a simple example. A sister told you that during a night prayer, she saw in vision an army of drones approaching a valley, and among them, a hooded figure, controlling everything with a gesture. She woke up in tears, feeling a pain in her chest. Do you know what she did? He stood up, read Psalm 91 aloud, and prayed for his house as if he were surrounding the home with a spiritual wall. The next day, a drone passed low in front of his window. Coincidence, perhaps, or maybe not. What is certain is that God has spoken. He has used the unexpected to warn those who are still spiritually awake. Proverbs 22:3 says, "The prudent see evil and hide himself, but the simple pass on and suffer the penalty." This generation needs to stop ignoring the signs. The presence of drones is not only political, military, or social. There is something spiritual being drawn in heaven, and only those who are firm in spirit will be able to discern what is technology and what is prophesied deception. And when we talk about deception, it's not just about lies. It's about distractions, about appearances. 2 Corinthians 11:14 says that even Satan is transformed into an angel of light. So why not in the form of technological advancement? Prayer needs to stop being superficial. Vigilance needs to be doubled. Because what comes next is even more telling. Drones aren't just observing. They are acting with goals that few dare to admit. Few are prepared to face the truth behind what is flying over their heads. The first revelation may seem absurd to many, but it is real. Drones are not just collecting data. They are mapping emotions, intentions, and souls. Yes, soul. Revelation 18:13 lists end-time commodities, and among them, the bodies and souls of men. There is something invisible being extracted, something that ordinary sensors do not detect, but the spiritual eyes see. Technology has evolved to the point of measuring nerve impulses, heartbeats, bodily reactions. Now imagine this in the hands of the spirit of deception. In some regions of the Middle East, drones have been used to read emotional patterns of crowds. That's public. But what about when this is used to detect someone's faith, worship, spiritual resistance? This is where the second revelation comes in. These drones fulfill the prophecies of Daniel 12:4. Knowledge has multiplied not only in books, but in chips and artificial intelligence. This knowledge has become surveillance. Drones fly over areas where churches meet in secret, simple, homely places of worship. And here comes the third revelation. They are mapping places where the faithful gather. It is not an exaggeration. In areas of persecution, aerial imagery has been used to track patterns of religious behavior. This is not just human control. It is the fulfillment of Revelation 13:17, where no one will be able to buy or sell without the mark. Branding starts with tracking. If you gather with others to pray, praise, or study the word, understand. You are a point of interest on the spiritual radar. This is not a reason for fear. It is a reason for vigilance. Luke 21:36 already said, "Watch therefore at all times praying." This vigilance has to be stronger than that of the enemy. Those who are with God do not fear, but neither do they ignore. Drones mark territories. God marks hearts. But the dispute is in the invisible. Now imagine the following scene. A simple prayer meeting in a humble home. Outside, a drone passes by, making no noise. Nobody notices. But on the outside, data is captured. In heaven, angels fight. On the ground, believers cry out. This battle happens daily, and many don't even realize it. Those who have an awakened spirit already feel when there is a different oppression hanging in the air. And that feeling, he does not lie. The prophecy continues to unfold. And while many think this is just a conspiracy theory, the heavens are announcing that the time is near. The revelations don't stop here. There are deeper connections between these modern-day locusts and what the apocalypse described as armies of iron. The next part is even more symbolic, and at the same time, frighteningly real. John, imprisoned on the island of Patmos, saw the future and tried to describe it with the language of his time. In Revelation 9:7-9, he speaks of locusts, like horses prepared for war, with crowns like gold, men's faces, women's hair, dandelions, and wings, whose noise was like that of chariots drawn by many horses running to battle. What he saw looks more like modern technology than ordinary insects. War drones? Yes, and much more. The resemblance is eerie. The noise of the propellers, the eye-shaped sensors, the metallic hull, the behavior in swarms. They are like locusts, but made of iron. When we read it aloud, it sounds like a movie scene, but it's prophetic reality. The apocalypse does not use modern language, but symbolic. And what was symbolic now becomes literal. These modern locusts have specific missions: to intimidate, control, mark, and, when necessary, attack. Several governments have used armed drones to eliminate targets with precision. But what about when this power is handed over to automated systems, guided by artificial intelligence? When decisions are based on spiritual, emotional, faith data? Revelation 13:15 speaks of the image of the beast who is given power to cause all who did not worship the image to be killed. What if that image is a living technological system? A digital empire with wings? Look at the pattern. Locusts appear as a plague, as a judgment. In Egypt, they brought destruction. In Revelation, they bring torment, and today they bring surveillance disguised as security. It's not just physical vigilance, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual. Those who take a spiritual stand feel it. Whoever prays understands. Whoever reads the word connects the pieces. It's not a coincidence, it's revelation. And don't think it's an exaggeration. In some countries, drones are already being used to monitor religious behavior. Yes, there are places where Christian gatherings are disrupted by drones flying over temples. They read signs, faces, even the expression of those who sing. Is this symbolic? No. This is literal. It is the prophecy being fulfilled before our eyes. And what looks like government control, it's just the surface because there is something even deeper. These iron locusts do not act alone. They are part of a much older system, a much darker plan. They are connected to something described later in Revelation, a system that will mark, control, and deceive those who are not under true spiritual protection. And the key to surviving this, it is in the secret place of the Most High. If the heavens are full of mechanical eyes which watch every step, then the question is, who watches the watchers? This is where the power of true spiritual protection comes in. Psalm 91:1 says firmly, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will rest under the shadow of the Almighty." While the drones search, God guards. While technology marks, Spirit seals. And that changes everything. Because what is covered by glory cannot be accessed by the watchfulness of deception. Many wonder if there is still refuge in a world where even our emotions can be measured digitally. The answer is yes, there is. But it's not an underground bunker or an encrypted password, it's intimacy with God. Psalm 91:5-6 adds, "You shall not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor pestilence that spreads in darkness." It seems written for today, doesn't it? The arrow changed shape. Now it's digital, invisible. Sometimes it comes with a propeller sound. There are people putting cameras to feel safe, but they forget to raise a cry for protection. In times of drones and satellites, the only spiritual firewall is prayer. If you've never thought about it, here's an exercise. Start your day with Psalm 91. Read it out loud. Declare about your home, your children, your job. It is like anointing the doors with oil but using the living word. The world watches on the outside, but God watches on the inside. Have you ever heard that story of people who were spared accidents, illnesses, or even tragedies without explanation? Often this is the result of an invisible covering. And this shield is not bought with money or downloaded by app. He comes through communion. Ephesians 6:11 says, "Put on the whole armor of God." Today, this armor even protects against digital manipulation, against the spirit behind the technology. External vigilance may even map our movements, but it will never understand our spiritual intentions. The enemy may even try to eavesdrop, but when he encounters an environment full of presence, he retreats. That is why we need more than ever to dwell in the hiding place. Not to visit once in a while, but to dwell. Living in this place is living armored, even in the midst of the apocalypse. The protection of the Spirit is still superior to any artificial system, and if this protection is real, then what comes next can no longer scare us. Because while the world builds networks of control and marking, God has already taught us how to identify the signs of the beast. Drones are just parts, but there is a larger structure, a spiritual purpose behind the mapping. And this purpose, it involves something much older, the brand. Have you noticed how everything is being tracked? Every step, every purchase, every conversation. The system does not sleep. And it's not just about political or economic control, it's spiritual preparation. Revelation 13:16-17 warns us, "And he makes all, small and great, whether a mark is given on the right hand or on the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell except the one who has the mark." What about drones? They are gathering the data that will feed this system. These flying eyes aren't just filming. They are calculating, connecting patterns, crossing profiles. In many countries, drones already work with software that analyzes suspicious behavior in real time. Now imagine this added to the use of facial recognition in churches, the algorithms that monitor online prayers, the systems that detect resistance to ideologies. The mark of the beast begins with the structure, and the structure is already among us, flying low without arousing suspicion. Some people think that the brand will be a simple chip, a visible object. But what if it's an entire integrated system, where your loyalty is measured by monitored behaviors? Drones watching those who gather in the name of Christ, platforms measuring their spiritual position by keywords. This is where the deception reveals itself. The brand is more than a symbol. It is a submission disguised as convenience. And what begins with vigilance ends in blind obedience. See, during the pandemic, there were tests with drones that measured temperature, detected distancing, and followed people in religious agglomerations. All for the good of all, they said. But the Spirit warns, beware of what looks like protection but hides oppression. 2. Thessalonians 2:11 is straightforward. God will send you a deceptive power that you may believe a lie. This deception disguises itself as progress, as useful technology. But in the end, it is an attempt to nullify spiritual freedom. Therefore, more than ever, discernment is essential. Many will accept the brand without realizing it, because they have already accepted surveillance as normal. They have already been conditioned. They are already emotionally marked. Technology has seduced them. And this is where the warning comes in. If you don't know the word, any code seems true. And if it is not filled with the Spirit, any system looks like salvation. But it is not. It is an illusion. And when the mark becomes a requirement, those who have faith as their basis will be persecuted. The system will call them radical, dangerous, disobedient. The drones, they will only obey commands. But there is a divine strategy for these days, a spiritual route of resistance, a way to survive the collapse without losing faith, identity, and vision. In times of drones, digital surveillance and deception disguised as innovation, one cannot survive with spiritual superficiality. It is necessary to strengthen the time of prayer, as if it were a matter of life and death. Because it is. Ephesians 6:18 says, "Pray at all times with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit." Prayer in these days is no longer a devotional ritual, it is an invisible shield. The more intense, the sharper. The more constant, the more armored against technological and spiritual attacks. But prayer without foundation is just noise. That is why the second strategy is to reinforce the biblical foundation. Read the word as if reading a map to escape a burning city. Psalm 119:105 says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." Start with Matthew 24, then dive into Daniel 12 and Revelation 13. Take notes, create spiritual memories. This isn't just study, it's prophetic endurance training. The third strategy is to build spiritual community. People who pray together, fast together, watch together. Hebrews 10:25 already warned, "Let us not forsake the assembling of ourselves together." In a world where surveillance isolates and technology drives away, the union of the body of Christ becomes a trench. It can be a small WhatsApp group, a cell at home, or weekly meetings with purpose. But there has to be living communion. There is no solitary resistance in the apocalypse. And when I speak of resistance, I am not talking about physical weapons, but spiritual armor. Ephesians 6:13-17 is the survival manual: helmet, breastplate, shield, sword, belt, and sandals. All symbolic, yes, but of practical application. The helmet of salvation, for example, protects your mind against deception algorithms. The sword of the Spirit, which is the Word, cuts through false narratives that try to appear to be true. It is a psychological, emotional, and spiritual combat. Spiritual. Vigilance now needs to surpass technological vigilance. It's not enough to know that drones are watching. You need to know what God is revealing behind it. Discernment is the password to access divine alerts. Those who pray and study the Bible have their radar calibrated, feel when something is wrong even without evidence. The Spirit reveals. John 16:13 assures, "He will guide you into all truth." And this truth is what frees us from the mark, deception, and spiritual paralysis. And that's precisely why, even with everything falling apart, there is still a group that doesn't bow down, a remnant who remain vigilant, who listen to the voice of the Spirit in the midst of the noise of the system. They are not many, but they are ready. And if you've made it this far, it may be that you are part of that silent army that prepares for the darkest days with unwavering faith. There has always been a remnant, a group that does not fold, does not sell, does not mix. And in the present day, while vigilance grows and deception spreads with the appearance of progress, this remnant continues to stand firm. Revelation 14:12 describes these people. Here is the endurance of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. They live attentively, not with fear, but with discernment. They don't react to chaos, and they position themselves with purpose. These spiritual watchers are not in the headlines. They rarely have titles or stages. They are on bent knees, attentive, eyes and spirit-sensitive hearts. They understand that the fight is now on three fronts: physical, digital, and spiritual. They know that drones can record movements, but they cannot contain prayers. That technology can try to identify patterns of faith, but it can never replicate the power of a consecrated soul. God always provides for those who trust. He did this with Noah by giving him a blueprint before the rain. He did it with Elijah, sending ravens into the wilderness. And it continues to do so today, with those who, even surrounded by apocalypse, keep the focus on revelation and not on fear. Isaiah 26:3 declares, "You will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is set on you." The remnant knows that peace, and it is she who sustains him while everything around him trembles. The mission is now clear: to remain standing when everyone kneels to the system. It is not about rebellion, but about fidelity. The world will call this radicalism, outdated, spiritual backwardness, but in fact, it is prophetic resistance. It is protection in the form of positioning. And if you feel this calling, it is already a sign that the Spirit is preparing you for something greater. Don't ignore that fire. The remnant is not perfect, but it is faithful. And when God finds faithfulness, He releases strategies, sends provision, strengthens the mind, and sharpens the senses. Will they go through persecution? But they will also carry spiritual authority. Luke 21:15 says, "For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all who oppose you will not be able to resist or contradict." This is the kind of power that cannot be bought, simulated, programmed in any system. Now more than ever, it's time to prepare, because the signs will not diminish. Surveillance will tighten. The brand will become a requirement. And the remnant will need to be ready, positioned, prepared, not just with knowledge, but with a fervent spirit. Because time is short, and there are concrete steps to be taken in the coming days. Now that you know what is behind those eyes in the sky, answer me honestly. Are you going to continue living as if nothing was happening? Will you continue to ignore the signs that the Spirit has been shouting in silence? Because what you learned here today is not just information, it's calling. It's time to act. Time to get up, pray with authority, immerse yourself in the Word, and shield yourself against deception. Have you reinforced your prayer time? Have you built your spiritual community? Have you understood that surveillance is not only physical but spiritual and emotional? The apocalypse is not a distant future. It is an ongoing process. And you need to choose which side you will be on, those who sleep or those who discern. If this moved you, tell me in the comments. Which part of this message woke you up the most? What revelation did the Spirit give you as you listened? Your answer may awaken other people as well. Share. Testify. Be the voice that breaks the silence of deception. And if you want to continue learning, taking a stand, and receiving prophetic warnings like this, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on the notification bell. Here you will not be fed with distractions, but with direction. Because in times of total vigilance, spiritual knowledge is real protection.